Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today I wanted to talk about a few things related to Battlefield 5. One of which just happened this morning, where David Sirlins made mention that there could be a CTE in Battlefield 5's future. This would certainly be good for the franchise, regardless of whether or not you've partaken in CTE in the past. The nice part of it is it allows DICE to test their patches among a small group of testers or people who want to partake in the CTE to see if there's any performance bugs or problems with it before it comes out for everyone else. Most Battlefield games in recent history have had some form of CTE, and for the most part I think they've done a great job at minimizing bugs in the game and helping developers kind of figure out a direction for maps and modes before they actually hit the main servers. In Battlefield 4, the free DLC map Operation Outbreak came out for everyone on CTE in an early white box phase, and multiple phases after that where the community was able to give feedback, and I feel like that actually pretty drastically shifted the direction of the map and gave the developers a lot of really useful feedback on cover and movement and positioning and stuff like that, and it helped made Operation Outbreak honestly one of the better maps that came out for Battlefield 4. Now, it's not to say that developers in general are incapable of designing really well-made maps without having constant community feedback. Usually most dev teams have internal quality assurance teams, or they can test it among the team themselves and basically use their own feedback. The problem, of course, is that Battlefield, in my opinion, throughout Battlefield 4 and up to present, has had very iffy map design. They seem to have lost their way or tried a lot of different things, or weapon balance or meta
He said it! He said it!
has changed so much, where the old style of map design just didn't work quite as well, and they've had a lot of problems with that, and I feel like getting community feedback is going to be one of the best ways at this point to ensure that we get the most quality maps possible from DICE in the future. The downside to CTE is that it can often ruin some of the surprise, right? Especially if you're seeing some of these new hotly anticipated maps in an unfinished state, it sort of lessens the effect of a big release, a big exciting release of new content. People are like, well, I've sort of seen this on CTE, not totally finished before, now here's the finished product, and it's not quite as exciting. It's hard to say how big of a negative effect that might have, if a negative effect at all. Granted, you're probably getting marketing and coverage of the CTE version of maps, and then you're getting further coverage when it finally comes out, but it's always felt like less of a excitement level when something is announced in CTE first versus the final version of the product. Also tested in CTE was Battlefield 1's Incursions. Now, DICE for a long time has sort of been dancing around competitive play for the Battlefield franchise. It sort of loosely existed in previous Battlefield games. There's been little leagues and tournaments and stuff, but it's never gotten to a particularly big level, and I feel now that the field has become so much more competitive, the odds of Battlefield breaking into it are less and less, but they do still keep attempting to create game modes designed around this competitive play. And Battlefield 1's Incursions mode was designed for this, which they were testing in CTE. They tested it out a lot. Some people liked it, but it never seemed to get any real traction behind it, and thus never made it into the base game. I think DICE just figured that if it wasn't gaining any traction in CTE or very much interest at all, that they were just going to cut their losses and not make it a permanent feature in the base game that they're going to have to support and maintain. So you could look at CTE again as a positive in that sense, where they're not spreading their resources into areas of the game that perhaps the general Battlefield population is not interested in. Now, speaking of patches and updates to the game, there's something I've been wanting to talk about, and it's kind of come up more recently once again with the latest free weekend updates for Battlefield 5. As cool as it is that DICE is making the game free for a while for more people to get in and try it out, especially now that it's seen quite a few improvements since launch, it's disappointing that these free weekends are not including the Firestorm game mode. Many criticisms of Firestorm when it first came out were that it was launching under the paywall of the full retail game. There weren't too many battle royales that were successful that were behind a full paywall like this, and most of the modern competitive battle royales were coming out as completely free to play. Fortnite, Apex Legends, PUBG is very, very inexpensive by comparison. Many people were able to get into these battle royales with very little upfront cost, where the one in Battlefield had a significant cost. So the fact that these free weekends are now not including Firestorm, which seems like it should be a very easy thing to tie in, you just check a little box in your in your program that says include Firestorm in the free game modes, then people could get into it and play it, which is a mode that desperately needs more player base. But one of the other problems behind this is that a recent developer post talking about updates and progression to Battlefield 5 said that a lot of the updates that were planned for Firestorm, like redesigning the loot system, were being put on hold so that they could focus on other areas of the game, the core experience. Now, we know that Criterion has stopped working on Firestorm and that the development of Firestorm was shifted back over to DICE. And if DICE is having to decide between putting resources on Firestorm and putting them on the core experience of Battlefield 5, then I'll pick the core experience of Battlefield 5 every time. It's a shame that we can't have both, though, because myself and many others thought that Firestorm showed a lot of potential. It had a few problems and caveats behind it, but the game mode itself seemed pretty solid. It could have just used an interesting progression system behind it, maybe some ranking systems that would reset every month, and a better looting system and a few meta changes and whatnot. But ultimately, it was a really fun way to experience the Battlefield 5 gunplay and the scale of the map and the graphics and all that stuff. I thought it was decent. I thought it had a lot of promise. But the fact that it's not being included on these free weekends and that the developers have decided to basically not support the features and functionality that they initially said were going to be added to the game shows that not only is DICE abandoning this game mode, but it seems like they're giving up on something that could have been successful. And I get it. The core Battlefield audience, for the most part, probably isn't that interested in battle royales. Or if you're going to play a battle royale, you're going to play a different one, and you don't need Battlefield to also be a battle royale. But I do like variety in the gaming world, and I do like different takes on the battle royale genre, and I thought Battlefield 5's take on it was pretty interesting. The fire circle was very interesting, destroying cover that you might be hiding in as the circle crossed over you, destroying houses and buildings. Like, there were some cool elements to it, some really neat ideas behind it that did shift up the standard battle royale in some interesting ways. It just needed more fine-tuning, more tweaking, some fixes to the looting system, and it could have been great. It also, needed to be free to play. And as we're seeing from Call of Duty, Activision, they're making the next battle royale add-on to their new Modern Warfare game a completely free add-on. They're doing exactly what everybody said DICE should have done with Firestorm. We said it couldn't be successful on its own behind the paywall even before it came out. This was criticism and feedback of the mode, and they did it anyway. Well, now it seems again like Call of Duty is going to be Battlefield to the punch, and they'll probably release a fairly successful Battle Royale mode that's going to be free for anyone looking to get into it. Now, of course, it seems like the next logical step would be for DICE to try and implement that feature in their next Battlefield franchise, but I'm sort of tired of developers who have these 2 to 3 year long game cycles deciding that, okay, well, this game came out this way. It's just going to be set in its way now, and we can't change it until the next game comes out. Why? Why not? DICE. Make Firestorm free to play. You could still throw some resources into it, tune up the mode, and come out with a free to play version of it. Do it secretly. Don't tell anybody, and then come out with Firestorm free to play and a big update for it that adds a bunch of new content for it, fixes the looting system, adds duos back in, has a better anti-cheat system, and bam. You've got a really awesome, successful Battle Royale mode that's going to start sucking players in not only to Firestorm, but they're going to start looking at Battlefield 5 and go, hey, well, what's the core game like? Maybe I maybe I should drop the money for the actual retail price of this game and get into that as well. It could be an absolutely great feature to bring people into the overall Battlefield circle using a great free add-on, just like Call of Duty is going to do with their next game. You can still do it with the current game, and maybe we're getting a Battlefield game announced next holiday season, but maybe not. Maybe the lifespan of Battlefield 5 is designed to last another 2 years, and if that's the case, then absolutely start pursuing a free-to-play Firestorm game mode. Anyway, that's my wishful thinking for Firestorm. I still think there's a little bit of life left in it, maybe a lot of life left in it if given the proper treatment. What do you guys think? I know many of you are core Battlefield 5 players. Maybe you don't care that much about Firestorm, but having a good free add-on game mode that isn't really detracting from your game, that brings in more players to the core experience, could be a benefit for everyone, even if you have no interest in Firestorm in general. Let me know what you guys think about all this in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.